Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Every week we put together a podcast which reflects on our weekly travel alert. We send out every Tuesday at 10:30 to 100,000 people. And Paul, you have a product you send out on Fridays.
The Travel Weekend Review goes out every Friday, and yeah, it's kind of more what are the hot news articles for the week. So.
And mine are editorial, so I get to say and dream up things, which I bet many of you are waiting for my January article on the 2025 travel predictions.
The predictions are on their way.
On their way. I'm traveling this next week to Italy, and on the plane, that's when I write them all up.
Okay.
Coming back, I write them all up. Hey, after I get back from Italy, I'm going to stop in New York City.
Or?
Well, the Huskers, Nebraska Cornhusker football team's playing in the Pinstripe Bowl against Boston College. And so this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler, we're going to talk about all the festive and fun things to do in New York City. You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Number one, visit those holiday markets in New York City. Bryant Park is one of my favorite places. I go, I make a reservation, I get my hot chocolate, and maybe a roll or something. Watch all the people. They've got a little skating area and some other things, all these little holiday markets, I call them. You know, we've got groups that go to Germany every year for the holiday markets. Well, there's a lot of little festive markets in New York City as well. Mm-hmm. Number two, you gotta visit Rockefeller Center. You've been there, right?
Yeah.
What'd you like?
I've seen the tree. It's beautiful.
Did you skate?
Ice skate. No. My first encounter with skating ended up with a broken wrist probably 30 some years ago. So I try to stay with shoes on my feet.
Was that roller skating or
that
ice
was
skating?
roller skating. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rockefeller Center. See the big giant Christmas tree. Of course, the skating down below. Just festive and fun. The holiday windows display is number three, Paul. I love walking down Fifth Avenue and seeing all the cool displays. Saks Fifth Avenue, Macy's, of course you've got Bergdorf Goldman, and you've got all these cool stores that all these designers from around the world design these windows just for Christmas.
And that's what I don't think people realize is that's not just one of the associates going up and putting up a window display. This is world-class people that are putting this together. So that's an experience unlike what you're going to get most other places. In Chicago, you walk Michigan Avenue, they've got stores that are going to do similar, but it's not just the standard decorations.
Number four in this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler of all the fun and festive things you need to do for the holidays in New York City, the Big Apple. Christmas lights. Paul, there's a cool thing, the Hop On, Hop Off bus. You can buy a ticket. It's a 2-hour ride at night to see all the Christmas lights.
It's beautiful.
That's the thing to do if you're going to New York City. Number five are the holiday shows. Guess what? The Radio City Christmas Spectacular includes the Rockettes.
The Rockettes.
And a lot of people have seen the Rockettes as they go for Radio City Music Hall, but now you have the Christmas Spectacular, and there are shows throughout this whole period, and you don't want to miss that. No. That's history in the making. So Radio City Christmas
the Nutcracker.
And the Nutcracker you could go to too. And then, of course, the granddaddy of them all, you see it every New Year's Eve, is the Times Square Ball Drop. And that is something that most people watch on TV. There's millions of people there. Some people don't like crowds. You don't want to be there.
Nope, I'll keep watching that from the comfort of my sofa.
Hey, those are the 6 things that I put down for this Christmas holiday if you're going to New York City. But now I also put down, Paul and I, we listed all the things that you can't miss if you go to New York City 12 months out of the year. Number one is your favorite.
Yeah, Statue of Liberty. Definitely something that's known around the world and something that we take pride in as far as a country. So something to definitely go check out.
And Ryan's son knows it because that's the commercial for Liberty Insurance, and he repeats that song every night.
Liberty, liberty, liberty.
Hey, I'd say that's good advertising.
There we go.
All right.
We need to see if they'll help support our efforts here.
Number 2, can you believe it? The Empire State Building was built in 1931, and it's iconic. There's just millions of people that visit that. Go up to the very top. 60 years ago, my mother took me to the top of the Empire State Building. I don't know how old I was, 3 or 4, but the point is, I still remember that today. So it's iconic. So you want to do that. Number 3, Broadway and Times Square. Of course, Times Square is the epicenter of New York City, I say. And our group is going to stay at the Millennium, which is like a half block off of Times Square.
Very nice.
So it'll be fun for them.
Well, and the thing is if you stay in Times Square, you're walkable to most of what you're going to want to experience in New York. So Broadway, everything, all that's within just blocks. So, if you're going to do New York, try to figure out how you can get something. And there's a wide array of different property types in the Times Square area, and you may have to get a couple blocks off to not spend an outrageous amount during a peak season, but definitely the area that you want to be in.
Well, and I get a kick out of people who say, the hotels are expensive in Times Square. I can stay in Brooklyn and save and find a hotel for $250. And I'm thinking the cab ride to Brooklyn is going to be $70.
And the amount of time wasted for transportation.
If you're going to go to New York City, stay in Broadway, Times Square, something down in that epicenter. So where you can walk to everything. Yeah. And then you can taxi cab or you can take the subway.
Yep.
Yeah. So number 4 on my list of the top 10 things to always do in New York City is Central Park. 700 acres in the middle of the island. Everything goes on there. That's where the city lives. It's where they play baseball. That's where they, have sailboats. That's where they do golfing. That's where they do carriage rides. Everything. They walk their dogs.
I always picture the movie Home Alone. That's where the bird lady was when. Oh, sure. The good old Central Park.
All right, number 5 is I love this hop on, hop off bus. Paul, every city I go to. First thing I do is get on the hop-on, hop-off bus, do the whole city tour.
Get acclimated.
I figure out where I'm at. Yep. And then I say, hey, I want to go back to the Colosseum in Rome, right? And I get off there the second time around. Is that what you do?
Yep. No, we do the exact same thing. And it's more of, and actually a great point that one of our advisors had is how to maximize that is you can buy multi-day passes, then you can actually use that as your transportation for multiple days of a trip. So it's a great way to get some savings if you're looking at how to do things and do it in an economical manner. So
you bet. Number 6 on this week's edition of the Weekly Traveler, the top 10 things to do in New York City, is the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. I think talk about very emotional.
Somber, but beautiful. Yeah. So, it's one of those things where it's, it's something that'll always be ingrained in our memories what happened. But they've done an amazing job of putting something together to memorialize the people that were lost in that situation.
You bet. Number 7 is one maybe many of our listeners aren't aware of. The High Line. Tell us about it.
Yeah, the High Line, it's an old above-ground train. I don't know if it was a part of the subway system, but it used to be train tracks. Now it's raised up probably 20, 30 feet over the street level, and you can just walk it. I'm going to say it's about 1.5 miles long. You can walk it. It can get you from up Times Square area down to maybe the Soho or Little Italy district. So, and you don't have to deal with all the stoplights and traffic and all that type of stuff. And it's done very nicely.
There's a cool place down at the end of that called Italy, E-A-T, Italy.
Yep. And it's a restaurant and a grocery store. Everything Italy you can want.
All right, number 8 on this week's list of the top 10 things to do in New York City, Brooklyn Bridge. I'll tell you, it's so famous. A lot of people take the hop-on, hop-off bus over to Brooklyn, get off, and walk the bridge back. Can you see the panoramic view of New York City? It's cool in the morning, and if you go in the summertime, you got to do it in the morning. And so it's a beautiful time to visit New York City. We've got the top 10 lists of top things to do in New York City. Number 9. This is the food capital of the world. If you want Thai food, if you want Japanese food, if you want Indian food, you want Kyrgyzstan food, you can get it in New York City. And it's just wonderful, the restaurants. And some of the restaurants, which I really like, have outstanding service. So they have wait staff that are professional. That's all they do. Kind of like Europe, where they're there. That's their job. They're not looking on it to get another job. This is the job. Their
pride
profession.
And passion for what they do. Where I've had the best luck, especially in New York, is when you check into that hotel and you get your bellman to take your bags to your room. Ask them, You know, if you've got a specific type of food that you're looking for or experience that you're looking for, ask them where they would go.
I
Because
love
if
the
they
food
give you
trucks.
the locals insights on that. And I remember the one of the first times that I went to New York, and we did that. And I still remember the bellman's name was Angel, and he gave us a sports bar to go to, and a Mexican restaurant to go to, and a nightclub to go to. And they were all memories that we took home with us. And it's because we weren't out trying to find things. We were going to places that we were told was going to give us what we were looking for.
The concierge at many of the upscale hotels will give you all that, but you have to be careful. You have to say, hey, I want a tourist trap, or I want something
Where the locals go. And typically where the locals go is going to be a better experience.
Yeah. I love the food carts, you know, the pretzels, the hot dogs, the gyros, as Ryan told me, not gyros, gyros, he says, all that fun stuff. And of course they have all the sweets and the drinks. And
especially this time of year.
Yeah, this time of year, so much fun. The last thing on my list of the top 10 things, don't miss Battery Park down toward the bottom of the island, and you overlook the Statue of Liberty and
Ellis Island.
Yep. And all those things. So that's a wonderful park to walk along. There's a lot of great parks in New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, today we've covered the top 10 things to do in New York City. A lot of the Husker fans are going to be going there this next week, so we want to say hi to them. I get to see New York City.
Bring home the victory.
And all its glory.
Yep.
I'll be there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I've got Paul Glenn, the CEO, Steve Glenn, the chairman. Thanks for joining us.
Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.